Attention, everybody. The views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of Axe Ministry, Axe Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and or non-profits. So without any further ado, Monday morning, the 18th.
Here we go! Good morning, it's Johnny Rooster in the hot seat. Pastor Matt alongside. We're doing the Morning Mouth. That's what we're calling it, the Morning Mouth on Axe Media Group. Coming at you.
Axe Ministry headquarters here in the beautiful Springfield, Missouri.
It's that place.
But the Morning Mouth.
It's the time and it's the place.
It is, indeed.
You have arrived. Don't touch that dial.
Yes, I am the last one.
Would you have a dial if you're watching on your phone?
I guess you could.
Don't touch that pause.
Dial.
Yeah, dial.
You know, nobody's done a rotary dial app where
Rotary
you can
dial.
use that instead of the
Yeah,
buttons.
make it less efficient.
Yeah, it's
That's
like-
what we're all about. We're going back to retro.
I thought it was.
Listening to the music by Pastor Matt.
It's called the Good News Band. News is spelled with a Z.
Yes.
I didn't think that all the way through, so now we're at the bottom of every list.
Yeah, thanks for throwing yourself to the back of the alphabet. It's like the back of the bus.
You know, we just like to be different.
Back of the bus.
Last will be first.
I'm forgiven. There you go. Hey, and I hope you guys
All right.
feel forgiven today.
So good morning, everybody, and welcome
Beautiful.
to the Morning Mouth with Johnny Rooster and Pastor Matt. I am Pastor Matt.
Yeah, you are. I thought
And
you
you
were
were-
Johnny Rooster there for a minute.
I was
You-
about to say.
You're all ready to go.
That's the best.
It's, Pastor Matt is used to being at the helm.
I am.
He's
am.
at the controls, that's for sure. Control. Oh, I can't sing the rest of it.
This is control. Oh yeah.
Now
we
I'm
can't-
all grown up. I don't
can't-
think I'm all grown up.
We had to have the part muted because of that, and
yeah,
that's probably
yeah.
what it was. We just started
Probably.
singing a song, and then we got it. It wasn't. It was only in a couple of countries. It
Michael's
wasn't-
sister. Okay. Anyway,
Michael's sister.
you know, Jan.
Ah.
Okay.
gotcha.
Yeah, whatever.
Speaking
so
of rotary
we
dials.
got a lot of
That's an old
Hello.
rotary dial. That's an old rotary dial phone.
on the show. Morning Mouth with Johnny Rooster and Pastor Matt. You are going to hear other things,
yeah.
different things.
Today's a serious topic, isn't it?
Serious topic. So
It's
we're,
Monday
we're
the
kinda,
18th, right? The 18th.
Yes, May is here, beautifully, full swing. Spring has sprung so long ago. Now we're kind of summery in our thinking. Was that really appropriate laughter? You know, because it sounded like canned laughter to me.
It is canned laughter.
It sounded exactly like the laughter last week.
Yeah, it was. I don't know what you're talking about. That's like a whole bunch.
I mean,
of
how did you get the same same inflection on your laugh? You know, how do you get the same? It's like that soundtrack. It's like watching a bad sitcom. You know,
I
it's
know,
like,
right?
Hey, gee, Wally. That was great, man.
I'm sorry.
It was too bad. It's too bad that sometimes the guy with the controls has too much control.
You know,
But he's having fun. That's what it's all about. So we love having fun on the Morning Mouth. And you're getting ready for work. And in most cases, you're getting up ready for work. And we want you to have fun your whole week long. And this is the front load to your Monday to get it going for the week.
before the morning drive. You know, 2 weeks ago was May 4th,
May the 4th be with you.
and I had this the whole time.
Oh, man, you should have used that. Can we go back and Can we go back in time?
I don't know how long
I
that one
could
is.
turn back.
And then I've got another. I've got another one here
Can we go back?
that I should have used. I know, right? Go back and the other
Share.
one.
Can we share?
where is it? I saw it
That was a
earlier.
pun,
Here
guys.
it is.
You Ooh, a laser.
Lightsaber.
Lightsaber. Wow. Wow. We could fight with
Loser.
loser.
That wasn't a lightsaber.
Loser. Was that one of those sound like loser, loser, loser?
Right, right.
Whipping it through the air.
Loser.
That was just right. That was swap that thing. You know, a man with an app like Pastor Matt, a guy with that kind of creative
You know,
energy,
I shouldn't
should
have
not
an
be
app like
allowed
this.
to have that type of technology.
Why? What are you trying to say?
It's a little offensive to some listeners.
Is it?
You know, they may not distinguish the gnat versus the buzzing of the bee, you know, the fly. It's a lot of stuff to distinguish.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
We're doing something a little serious this morning, so we're setting it up.
Real quick, this is something that nowadays really offends people. You ready?
Okay, here we go. Brace yourself. Oh, yeah, COVID. COVID reminders.
Yeah.
We can cough COVIDly.
Hopefully the country's open by now.
Yeah, the COVIDery is about enough, you know.
Yeah.
That's enough COVIDery.
COVIDery. I just want
Corona
to
be
grab
gone.
my imaginary glass. and
Hashtag
drop it.
Corona be gone. Ooh, that's going to
I don't know.
You're gonna have
Somebody
to
mop
clean-
that up.
clean up on aisle 2.
Clean up in aisle 3.
We got a lot of humor. We got a lot of energy. This is the Morning Mouth with Johnny Rooster. I
You both
almost
said
forgot
Matt
my-
and Jay, didn't you?
Matt and Jay is coming up after this. But if you
Yeah!
tuned in earlier, I'm glad you do, and I want you to share this with your friends every Monday morning, 7:30 to 8. They're kind of in that vicinity anyway. You know, don't dock us points for a few minutes here and there. Well, it's a few minutes among friends.
You know,
But we're going to be here every Monday morning, so you better be listening, watching, and sharing. And put a watch party on. And
Did you like-
there's a labelless bottle.
yeah, this is a
and
labelless
with
bottle.
an undetermined liquid.
Yeah, that's why
Unknown,
I
unnamed.
just think it'd be great to be like the, you know, you're
Hey,
like, mm.
remember last week we were talking about man and woman and that stuff? Remember that?
Yeah,
Well, if you had manicotti,
we've been thinking about
you had
those all
manicotti.
week now.
Manicotti is not womanacati, it's being. Because
Being
man
accotti.
is too manly, woman is too womanly. We can't do that. We have to call it a being. So
Being a
being
cotty.
accotti.
Yeah,
And Manhattan would be Bing Hatton.
I about did a buzzer sound on here, but I didn't want to.
I don't know if that would be good.
Probably not.
Probably.
I'm very
So,
offensive, aren't
Very
I?
offensive. So we're going to offend everybody again with a new sensitive topic because Johnny Rooster is
Well,
about this.
It's not an offensive topic. It's
Not
it's
at
a,
all.
It's
But
a sensitive
It's
topic
sensitive. We
to
don't.
some people.
We want some people are hurt.
I happen to be very well versed and very practiced in this topic.
Okay, but we're going to tell them about this because some people are grieving. Okay.
Yeah, and it sucks.
And so that's why I'm not going to make light of that. Your host, Johnny Rooster, I've been a Christian. I'll just give my background a little bit. I've been a Christian since a young child. Made a dedication to my life to Christ at age 13 again at church camp, and then later in life went through some hard knocks because my life, quite frankly, Pastor Matt, I was in the culture of comparing myself to others and thinking myself more like you, but say holier than thou. You've heard
that's
the
what I'd
people
say.
that
Holier than
They
thou.
have this attitude that their doesn't stink. Okay,
Their what doesn't stink?
their excrement does not reek of excrement.
That's a really, really big
How's
word.
that for a big word? Put that on
pretty
a
crappy.
T-shirt. Excrement happens.
Excrement happens.
That's a big one.
That's a fecal matter.
Yes. So we have the idea that we're better. Okay,
Yeah.
but we don't really want to say that because pride is wrong.
Right, absolutely.
So we're Christians. Now listen, follow along with me if you will. You're watching, you're listening, you want to know, am I a Christian that acts this way? Here's how I channeled myself. If I don't, and then I fill in the blank with my favorite sins, then I'm better than you. Because sin is still sin, but God and I had this agreement that my sin was less offensive. My sin was pride, selfishness, and arrogance. But that's better than, and I listed them: smoking, drinking, profanity. I cursed, but I didn't do it in public. You know what I mean? I'm that clean guy. Everybody knew.
Right.
And so I had these vices, and the list of vices was kind of long, and my rejection of people who had the vices was pretty long. And then it got into, if you got tattoos and piercings, if you're a man, you can't have earrings.
A lot of people go
It
through
went
those
on and on.
phases.
This was back in the 70s and 80s, okay? So, but that was a real rigid culture, and it still can be for some people.
Yeah.
Anyway, I built up my spiritual resume, and then when I was married, I had children, I thought all was going to be well. I was on staff at a church. I thought that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I made a big deal about all my accolades, like, look at my attaboys for Christianity.
yeah.
Look at what he's doing for God. Look at what he's doing for God.
Give yourself a pat on the back there, Johnny.
Ain't Jesus impressed? So I was trucking along.
So continue.
Yes. I was trucking along, doing my thing, being a little bit more arrogant than what you should be, a little less accepting than what you should be, and I wasn't labeling people for their brand of Christianity. I was labeling them for their lifestyle flaws. I was nailing people in my head about you're bad because you don't toe the mark because you do this or you don't do this. So it's behavior based.
Right.
So because of that narrow legalistic field that I was looking through, that little narrow lens, I got into something that I wasn't proud of.
Right.
And the pride ate me up, but I couldn't admit my own flaws. And then I started getting worse because a friend of mine had died in an accident. I felt there was nobody there that understood me. My close friend was gone, and so I acted out. I started acting out in a certain way, and I had a double life. And before you know it, Pastor Matt, I was actually addicted to a different type of activity than what Christians are supposed to do. And I was embarrassed. So I'm even walking around it right now, because here's what it is. Anybody that's caught in something that they're not proud of, that's what I'm talking about. Because it could be anything. It could be my thing.
Right.
Could be your thing. I was doing stuff every day that Christians would be embarrassed about.
I'll tell you, I
So
had
I thought it was cool.
serious battle with pornography.
Yes.
And a lot of people think, oh, that's, yeah. You know,
Disgusting.
that sin's just as bad as any other sin.
Yes.
Sin separates us from God.
When your sin is of a sexual nature, as mine was, as
Yeah.
yours, you are sitting. I was sitting at a room full of people to get help. Okay, I admitted finally, after being caught, that I shouldn't be doing this, and I didn't want to do this.
Right.
So I went to a church group of helpers, and here's what happened. One guy was addicted to drinking. One guy's addicted to gambling. Somebody else had something else. I was the pervert in the room. It was terrible because I wanted a sin that people could at least be comfortable with. That's what sucks.
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah, no, I get
If you
it.
got a porn problem or you got something else going on, I hadn't committed any crimes, but I had committed all of these offenses against God, and all the
Which are worse. It's
all
worse.
the judgmental people in the room were just like me. I was judging me. They were judging me. I had judged so many people for so long, it became my culture. Now I was the bad guy, and I had to disclose this bad behavior to a room full of people that I didn't care about.
Right.
So all that to say, the topic today is divorce. I got a divorce from this situation. My first wife left me because I couldn't come clean enough. I kept lying. And so that shame hung with me for several years. I was in my mid-40s when I hit rock bottom. Remember, I'd had all this spiritual background, all this upbringing. My dad was a pastor. I had all these wonderful spiritual accolades. I'd patted myself on the back. I had looked very good to other Christians. I didn't do anything wrong. When I disclosed my dirty secret, my wife left me because I couldn't stop lying about it. Wow. Brick wall. I was done. That's when God had stripped. I was stripped of everything that I thought was dignified. I had nothing but shame and remorse.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah. That's tough.
So the topic today is divorce. If you have been through a divorce, if you're hurting from a divorce, or perhaps you're going through a struggling marriage, a failing marriage, if you want to be honest with yourself, you're not alone. And you're not going to be ashamed. You're going to be helped. This is how we're going to help you. I want people to hear this. If you can't get a grip on yourself, you're lying to yourself that all is well. I was doing that too. I was going to church. Everybody thought everything was cool. Only this little group of people knew the dark secret, and they didn't talk about it, and I was ashamed, but I could hide it. There was a point where I couldn't hide it anymore. I had to stop lying to myself. At that point, I had to start over and start looking at people the way God looks at them, and looking at myself the way God does. I got the judgment. Oh, sure. I had the other people that were judgmental in my world telling me all the wrong I'd done and how ashamed God will do this. 1 Corinthians 15, expel the immoral brother, blah, blah, blah. They went on and on. Okay, I get it. You can heap all of that onto somebody.
But what they don't tell you also, that is if they don't repent.
If they don't repent. But I was totally like, I'm wrong. I did wrong. I want help.
That's repentance.
So I fully disclosed this in a book that I wrote called Divorced Christian Dad. So if you want to look it up on Amazon, go right ahead.
DDD.
It's divorced.
DCD.
DCD. Like
Why is it
AC/DC.
Divorced Distant Dad?
Divorced distant dad. So it's a divorced Christian dad.
Is it an audiobook?
Tells my story. I want to make it an audiobook. Honestly, it's just a hardcover or an ebook.
Well, how long is it?
It's 100 pages or about. It's
We
easy to
could
read.
we can make an audiobook right here.
Let's do that sometime.
I mean,
I appreciate it because it's a good message. The message is not so much about me, it's about anybody hurting, and it's specific for men that are Christian that are going through divorce.
Yeah.
Now, you guys might have other people to share with, but please put in your comments.
If you do, that's great. God
I like
bless you.
that. But share if you have found some healing in your life. Maybe there's sources. Can they put a link in their comments
Yeah, absolutely.
about sources for help?
Yeah, absolutely. Put them on there.
But you check out Amazon's Divorced Christian Dad. You might have other sources for divorce recovery, but I'll tell you what, my own journey was all of the recovery groups in the world weren't going to help until I was willing
To accept.
to humble myself,
Yeah.
break down everything about me, and say, God, it's not about me hanging on to what I had, because I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
I was humiliated. So I said, God, I have nothing. Please shape me into what you would have. And now my look is much more compassion.
Yeah.
Much more compassion.
And it's hard. A lot of people, when they first get into Christianity, they are very judgmental of others because
The rules, the do's and the don'ts are really in their face.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is everybody has that one sin specifically that they can't get rid of, that they've tried and are having such a hard time that you're going to fight for the rest of your life.
I can honestly say I feel so much freedom knowing that I can talk about it and not feel ashamed, but I'm still susceptible to
it.
traps.
Absolutely.
So you don't
The
want to
enemy
pretend
knows
like,
you.
I've never done that again. Well, you know what? I'm susceptible. And
The enemy, and you're actually more susceptible if you put your guard down. You let your guard down because you think, okay, it's been this long. You think you're okay. That is not the truth. There are guys that have quit drinking for like 20 years. They quit drinking, and then just one sip of wine or something. I can do that now, and then they let their guard down. They take a sip. Next thing you know, now first of all, you mess up a little bit. I don't consider that losing your sobriety.
Yeah.
I consider that having a relapse, but not losing your sobriety.
Sure.
Not going back onto the wagon.
Sure.
Or falling off the wagon completely. Because, my brother in Christ, he's my best friend, Jay. You'll see him here next. He drank for 27 years straight.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah. And then whenever he quit, there was a couple times whenever he relapsed.
Well, yeah.
And he wasn't afraid. He may have been afraid, but there was one time he called me.
Yeah.
And I went over there. And, that's going to happen.
You got to let your guard down as far as not lying to yourself. So what I did was I called my brother and my best friend. I had a new best friend, and I talked to them anytime, day or night. It was open, and I could also text or call. But I didn't feel the shame when I was talking to them that I would have if I held back and said, they don't need to be bothered. You know the temptation is, I don't think we should bother them with my problem.
Right. Or what are they going to say? Man, it's going to
What
horrible.
will they think?
Because you're already feeling bad. You let them down.
Just do it. Just disclose it to that close friend that you trust.
It has to be somebody you trust, somebody you know is not going to jab their finger in your face and tell you, you're going to hell.
It could be a preacher,
That's not right.
a counselor, or a best
could be.
friend, but somebody you trust. Get it out there.
Yeah, and it has to be somebody that you trust.
And then follow up,
Otherwise, you'll have extreme anxiety before you even talk to somebody.
I had these encounters with, remember the Promise Keepers movement? Do you remember?
Oh,
hearing
yeah,
about that?
yeah.
It was so big, and then after the movement, they'd have the rally. It was great, and then from that, we had these little circle groups of men that were supposed to be accountable. Well, what the flaw on some of that was men that didn't know each other well were supposed to answer moral-based questions, and if they had a failure, they didn't want to look like the bad guy in front of the group.
Right, so they weren't being honest.
So they'd say, did you just lie to me? And they'd lie and say, no, I didn't lie to you. But they did lie, and they felt worse, and they'd drop out of the group.
Yeah.
And that happened over and over again. I was in some of those groups, and I wanted to disclose it. And I was trying to bring it up to this younger pastor, staff member, trying my best to hint that I had a problem, and he didn't know what I was getting at, and I felt even worse because I didn't want to just say what my problem was. Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, and it's
So
rough.
there might be listeners out there now
Sorry, that was one of my battles. The pornography
struggling.
was.
Yeah, if they're
And
struggling.
you know how many people out there are having that battle, and they are so ashamed of themselves because, and they don't think that there's, and they battle it and battle it by themselves.
Yeah, they're alone.
But you'd be surprised how many people, whenever you say, "I've got this problem,"
Then they're like,
they say, "Oh, me too.
yeah, sigh
Me
of
too.
relief. Yeah,
Help me, I'll help you.
right.
Pray for me, I'll pray for you."
Iron sharpens iron. You gotta help
Absolutely.
another brother.
Absolutely. And I'm getting all impassioned here.
Well, you've got a background too with divorce.
Yes, absolutely. Well, my first wife, she introduced me to methamphetamines, and I got pretty hardcore in that for a while. But I was cheated on a whole bunch, so I still have some serious scars, emotional, mental, and some physical scars because of this person. And when we finally separated, I didn't have the money to divorce her. So technically, I did not divorce her, and I didn't find out that that she had passed away until I was trying to find her to divorce her, and then come to find out she was dead. And I felt bad because I was never able to offer her forgiveness,
Yeah.
because the forgiveness is not for them.
Right.
Forgiveness is for you.
Yeah.
If you're holding on to something,
Yeah.
get rid of it.
Man,
Give it to God and forgive them.
And seriously, it sounds cliche, but once you do,
It's hard.
such a relief.
It's hard.
But once you do, if you truly forgive, it's a relief.
Yeah, it's closure.
Like,
You
seriously,
can be
Matt,
happy again.
I'm at a point where I can forgive just about anything I can imagine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to hold on to it. It's like, oh, somebody violated your child. Well, I'm going to have to forgive. I'm going to work through anger.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to just say I'm holding on to anger the rest and bitterness. No, I can't do that. It's horrible.
No,
I've
it turns
done
into poison.
I've done that so much that I don't ever want to return to that poison.
That turns to hatred, and
remember
it
the
separates
taste-
you from God.
I'll just be more real with you guys. I had the taste of bile in my mouth. I felt like I was vomiting some bile when I felt about my divorce, because I didn't want the divorce. I was a Christian. I was different from what maybe your meth story, whatever that is.
Yeah.
My story was all righteous rap.
Yeah.
It was all about, I serve in church, my wife serves in church, now she's leaving me. We were married.
That was my second marriage.
18 years I was married and had kids, and I'm like, I
Well, we
feel
weren't married
awful.
18 years. We were married 6 months before she left me while I was at church, and
So
she
on your
worked for the church.
Second marriage.
Yeah, and that's I think that she was in love with the idea of us, and I don't know, I don't know. She went through some trauma as far as like a relative very close to her passing away, and it wasn't working, and I had a lot of resentment
Yeah.
towards her, because not only did she send me a text message, but she also, while in the middle of church, she stayed home and sent me a text message, and then she also worked for the church, and this blew everybody away. And she just left her keys up there and sent everybody else a text message about it too. So right after church,
Hit the
there
bomb
is
button.
yeah, but it's not pulled up right at the moment. But now
Atomic.
I've got all the leadership of the church coming to me right after church.
Oh my god.
But the thing is she had so much anger and bitterness and expressed it in such a way that I was relieved. Because, and I felt bad about that. The youth pastor cried more than I did. Now, I cried some later because I'm like, I waited 2 years to have, to make sure that it was in the marriage bed. Waited 2 years, thought I'm doing it right this time. And then, it happens. I should have listened. I should have waited. Should have did more counseling. So now I've got a lot of cynicism,
Yes.
which I've got to let go, and I still fight that.
That's good to admit. That's good to share, because I want to segue into this. If you're cynical about marriage and you're a young person that hasn't been married, I want you to get right with the idea of marriage, because marriage is sanctioned by God.
Right.
If we talk about failed marriage, We're not talking about God failing.
No, talking about us failing.
The institution of marriage is a wonderful thing. I am remarried, okay? Matt is not, but I am.
No, and
And
I'm not taking applications yet.
I'm currently remarried to a wonderful woman, a godly woman, but God has strengthened and blessed my life. But it was 18 years in a first marriage with 4 children and heartbreaking loss, me telling the judge, I don't want this divorce. I'm a Christian. I believe in marriage. I believe in reconciliation. So think about this. Here's a man that wants it all to stay together because I'm so proud I can't let go of anything. And my wife just wants release from my lying, okay? But I don't want to admit I'm a liar. I want to say, let's solve this thing. Let's fix it, honey. Let's get it all together.
Pretty serious conversation
And so
on the
for the
show today.
kids' sake, you know? So
Yeah.
really, if you're facing something that heavy and that ridiculous, start forgiving more. Start loving more.
You'd be surprised at how much relief you can get if you have that closure. Give it to God. Give them forgiveness.
Not your typical Johnny Rooster show.
No, but it needed to be said. Somebody out there needs to see this.
It's like a lump of just wanting to throw up. Get it over with.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, confess your sin
Depression,
and get it over with.
don't battle it alone. Call
No.
somebody, talk to them.
Seriously.
And if you have any resources that you want to provide for other
Yeah,
people
put 'em
that
on
might
the
need
link.
it, put them down in the comment section below.
Thank you.
And we will
we want
make
to help
sure.
everybody.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if you want to hear my story in detail, and I've laid it out. I let my oldest son read it before I published it. But it's self-published. It's called Divorced Christian Dad. It's a title by John Cockcroft on Amazon.
Okay, we'll check it out.
I appreciate you guys listening to that. It's a heavier topic, and we might have some lighthearted material, but we kind of don't want to make fun of people that are hurting or
Yeah.
situations that are painful. But if you think about it, every situation can be so pathetic, and you can get so self-absorbed. I was very, very self-absorbed. Self-pity.
Yeah.
You know, I had a best friend. After my best friend died, my new best friend's name was Self-Pity.
Ah.
Oh, I loved this guy. I would feed him every day. I made self-pity.
Every day, all day, every day.
Self-pity was my thing, man.
We always like to party.
I would wallow in this
Everybody
pity
loves
party.
that pity party.
And you tell you what, to make fun of something that I went through seriously is funny because we got to realize how foolish we are when we're full of self-pity. My divorce is worse than yours. I was married longer than you. I was a Christian. I didn't want a divorce. You could hear me whining all the way to heaven. You really
Yeah,
could.
yeah.
And God was thinking patient thoughts. I know he was.
Oh,
Because
has to with us.
Then, you know what? You know what I would do? I would stay out as late as I could so I wouldn't have to stay home in an empty house. And as soon as I got home, I would start cursing God. That's how wrapped up in myself I was.
How could you let this happen, you blankety blank?
And I was doing that, and I'd cry myself to sleep. That's pathetic. Okay, guys? It's pathetic. I'm telling on myself. That's where I was at age 45.
Well,
It sucked.
it's one of these. This topic is something we need a full hour for, but we
It's
don't.
real.
We're at 27 minutes and
Okay,
25 seconds.
it's heavy.
It's real heavy.
It gets real, but I want you guys to get real. I don't want you start your week and you think about people you can love. You know, the end of this story is there is love at the end of the tunnel.
There is love at the
You
end
may
of the
not
tunnel.
feel the light, but there is light when there's love.
Oh yeah, because God is love.
I have forgiven my ex. I love my kids, and
Good
I am
song for this.
restored. We are restored. In the name of Jesus, I pray for your restoration in your life.
Amen.
Johnny Rooster,
I'm forgiven. So thank you everybody for joining us on
Thank
the
you
morning
for
mouth
listening.
today.
Yeah, it was
Be
a
sure
tough one.
Tune in next for the morning drive with Matt and Jay. I'll be there wearing a different T-shirt probably. So thank you for your show. Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you here.
And we'll be back on next week. So until then, we love you guys. Bye.